Hey guys, how's it going and welcome back. So I wanted to do a specific video. We talked a little bit about hunting regulations in Ontario. I suggested to you guys to check out your provinces because of some of the changes, especially when it comes to firearms like pellet guns, okay, and non-PAL specifically. And that includes the air javelin and the air saber. They are what's called a non-PAL pellet gun. Now, even though they do shoot bolt type arrows or a long arrow that's 50 caliber, they're still considered air guns, but they're also still considered firearms, as is any device that is designed or adapted to fire a projectile is a firearm in Canada, right? We already know all this stuff. And we think we know the air gun law is pretty good when it comes to non-PAL stuff, but, well, this does kind of change things. It's a bit of a game changer when it comes to hunting with a non-PAL pellet gun for small game. Now, can you do it? Absolutely. Now, all over Canada? Maybe not. So I decided to look at a few different provinces other than my own, and I just Googled them. So in Ontario, of course, we do have the main overview here, where we did discuss this already. Yes, you can use a pellet gun for hunting small game in Ontario, but you must meet certain requirements. You must carry proof of firearms accreditation, such as a possession and acquisition license, when hunting with a gun, period, in Ontario. Apprentice hunters 12 to 14 residents must also carry proof as well, etc. Okay, now we've talked about this sort of thing in regards to Ontario hunting regulations, but what about other provinces? So I thought, okay, well, let's knock these off one at a time here, okay? But down below, I just want to add in, air and pellet guns are not permitted for hunting big game, but may be used for hunting small game, okay? Now, of course, we already know we're not allowed to use any kind of a restricted firearm, even when it comes to pellet guns, because a great example of this, the Crosman 1377 is produced as a non-PAL Canadian version, no problem. Show your ID that you're 18 and over, and you walk out of the store. They also have an American version of that same gun, and that one is rated for, I believe it's 600. You'd be lucky to get 515, maybe 5 1/4 out of it. I've read a lot of posts from guys in the States that have had that gun, and yeah, it's just over 5, but it ain't nowhere near where Crossman's trying to say it is, okay? So anyway, yeah, let's continue on. And that's just one example. There are a lot of guns, even from Wire Rock and many other companies that make both a PAL and a non-PAL version of the exact same guns. Okay, but not all guns are done that way. All right, so British Columbia. All right, what's their rule? Yes, you can hunt with a small game pellet gun in British Columbia, but there are some restrictions to consider. Pellet guns with a muzzle velocity above 500 feet per second or a muzzle energy greater than 5.7 joules are considered regulated firearms and require a firearms license. Okay. Air guns can be used anywhere that is safe and the owner or tenant gives permission. However, shooting late at night may be considered a crime if it generates a lot of noise. Now, you do not need a federal firearms license or PAL to hunt in BC. And you don't need it actually anywhere else that I've found so far, because you can hunt with a bow and arrow, and that does not require a PAL. You can hunt with a crossbow. Not a big deal. It's when you start getting into this air gun thing that things can get a little bit dicey, whether it's a PAL-rated air gun or non-PAL. Things can get a little dicey that way, okay? So, but to look in further, check your laws very in depth, especially if you're looking at the non-PAL side and you want to do small game hunting. Now, up until this year, I know in Ontario, we had no problems hunting with non-PAL pellet guns. All we need is a small game license and our pellet gun, and that's it. Away we went, and we could go and hunt rabbit and grouse and squirrels and any other small game that non-PAL pellet gun could take down. And believe me, I do not recommend 177 for that job. It's not suitable. 22 caliber, that is definitely suitable, okay? Anyways, so we thought, all right, so now BC's taken care of. Alberta, well, Alberta's a little different, okay? In Alberta, now this is funny because Alberta seems to put a burr under the butt of our government currently, especially with this whole firearm thing and the look-alikes. Not that they function the same, because they don't. But yeah, it's causing a lot of havoc, and you guys already know what's going on over YouTube with firearms right now, and it's affecting everybody everywhere. Anyway, so in Alberta, it says no, you cannot hunt small game with a pellet gun in Alberta, because pellet guns that resemble a regulated firearm are considered replica firearms and are illegal to sell, import, or transfer into Canada. That's kind of interesting when you look at that. Now, there are a lot of replica pellet guns. Even I've owned a number of them, and they're actually pretty freaking cool. You know, but it's kind of interesting how they start to lay this out. Then they go on further. Air guns with a muzzle velocity of more than 500 feet per second and a muzzle energy of more than 4.2 foot-pounds or 5.7 joules are also considered firearms under the Criminal Code and the Firearms Act. In Alberta, you can hunt rabbit, hare, porcupine, raccoon, woodcock without a license at any time of the year. Now that's kind of friggin' cool. You don't need a license at all, any time of the year. We got restrictions on Ontario. You can also hunt and trap skunks, but there are some exceptions. To hunt big game or game birds, you need a valid wildlife certificate and the appropriate hunting license. Looks like Alberta's got some pretty interesting regulations, and I've told you guys before, not everybody's under the same regulations either. And there's proof right there. Here in Ontario, you know, I mean, if you want to hunt rabbits and porcupines and all that, you got to have a license for that, for small game, you know, and there are seasons, except for, I think skunk is definitely all year round. Raccoons, of course, I think pretty much about anywhere, but I'm not sure. But I know in Ontario, raccoons you can only hunt at night anyway, because it's the only time they're out. But you also have to hunt them with a 22 LR, I believe is the minimum. I'm not sure if you can bow hunt them. I think you can, but I don't know. I have to take another look. But you definitely also have to have a licensed dog. And it's like, I don't want a dog, you know, but, well, guess what? If you want to hunt raccoon, you want a dog, because it's not an option, right? This is Ontario here. But this is interesting how they talk about this, but they don't even consider the non-PAL side. They just say, no, you can't hunt small game with a pellet gun, but then they go on the other side of the fence talking about PAL rated. They don't talk about anything non-PAL here. So that's something you're going to have to call about to actually get some really straight answers on that one, because that's definitely kind of interesting. All right, so let's go on to the next province. So what do we got for Manitoba? Manitoba is quite interesting, okay? No, you cannot hunt small game with a pellet gun in Manitoba, because pellet guns are considered firearms under the Manitoba Wildlife Act. And your point freaking is, you know, I mean, if you're going to hunt, you hunt with a firearm, right? Non-PAL guns are still firearms, but they're under a different kind of deal when it comes to non-PAL. They are firearms, but they're never part of the Firearms Act or Criminal Code unless used in the commission of a crime. And that crime does not have to be holding up your local Mike Smart. That could be noise violation crime. You know, that could be you accidentally shot out the neighbor's window in their house because you were being a bit of a person, you know what I mean? Let's continue. The Manitoba Wildlife Act defines a firearm as any device that uses compressed air, springs, or explosives to fire projectiles. Perfect. This includes air guns, rifles, shotguns, crossbows, revolvers, pistols, and spring guns. Now, the crossbow part is kind of interesting because they don't use springs or explosives to fire their projectiles, and they also don't use compressed air in an actual crossbow, because a crossbow is a device that is got a string and limbs. So they really added in something that they never should have on this one, because by legal definition, a crossbow does not fire in this manner. Okay, now by legal definition, yes, it is a firearm, definitely, and it doesn't require a license, but it is definitely not what they're projecting here. So that's a little bit of misunderstanding that they have on a crossbow, because the air bows are not considered crossbows in Canada, like the Javelin and the Sabre and many other off-brands that are out there too, right? Including the brand Air Bow. These are not considered crossbows by any means. They're considered what's called an air-powered bow or an air bow, which is different in all definition to a crossbow. So that's something I think you might want to take up with your locals in Manitoba. All right, so let's take a look at replica firearm definition. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, or RCMP, defines a replica firearm as an airsoft gun that looks like a real firearm and has a muzzle velocity of less than 366 feet per second. Replica firearms are prohibited. Now, this is in Manitoba. Obviously, they didn't look at replica firearms for the pellet and BB gun world, and as many of you know on my channel, if you watch it, then you'll know that I've had replica pellet guns that shoot pellets or BBs, and they are replicas, okay? There's also guns that look like a gun, but they're kind of really not, you know what I mean? So it's kind of a neat, different thing. Okay, regulated firearm definition. The Firearms Act defines a regulated firearm as an air gun, paintball gun, BB gun, pellet gun, or airsoft gun that has a muzzle energy greater than 5.7 joules or a muzzle velocity greater than 500 feet per second. Regulated firearms require a firearm license. Thank you. You actually got something pretty good there. All right. Now, to hunt in Manitoba, be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident of Canada, have a valid hunting license and any required game tags, so above your hunting license, which covers small game, have a hunter education training course certificate, carry your license, certificate, and game tags while hunting. Be prepared to show your license and certificate to a conservation officer if asked. Well, you got to run into them first, and yeah, this year they're cracking down. Probably pretty much everywhere. Okay, so that takes care of Manitoba. New Brunswick. Now, this is the interesting one, because when you go to apply for your PAL, I'm still waiting for clearance on mine. I'm like, come on. Anyways, New Brunswick is where it's all taken care of at the RCMP for everybody in Canada. That's where your PAL gets the application sent to and for approval, right? So here's this for New Brunswick. Yes, you can use a pellet gun to hunt small game in New Brunswick if you have a license that allows for small game hunting. Oh, perfect. I do. Hey. Okay. In general, you must have a valid license to hunt or kill any wildlife in New Brunswick. I think that pretty much stands pretty much, well, we know a few places that didn't, right? Now, here's what they get you. Proof of your firearms accreditation if you are hunting with a gun. All right, now this goes to the same thing as the Ontario ruling this year, is that if you are hunting with a gun, period, doesn't matter if it's air gun, pellet gun, doesn't matter, you know, if it's a regular firearm, like an unrestricted PAL-rated firearm, your usual stuff that shoots like, you know, cartridges and shot shells, right? Doesn't matter if it's a PAL-rated pellet gun, right? So, yeah, gun, period. Pellet guns are not permitted for hunting big game. Well, of course, they're not permitted here either, right? So we've got that cleared up. In Canada, air guns with a muzzle velocity above 500 FPS and a muzzle energy greater than 5.7 joules are considered regular firearms and require a firearms license. Now, keep in mind, you got to read this carefully, right? if your muzzle velocity is above 500 and it's also greater than 5.7 joules, okay, or 4.2 foot-pounds combined, then it's considered a firearm. You have to meet both for it to be considered a PAL-rated air gun, okay? So anyway, that's what we got on these particular provinces for you guys. I didn't get a chance to go through all of them, but I figured let's tap into a few of the most major ones out there and see what they have to say. So again, same as the last video, check your regulations for your province. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit more info on this, but specifically geared to non-PAL, okay? Because a lot of you have non-PAL air guns, you've been hunting with them for years, and all you needed was a small game license or whatever. Now, some of you probably still have that same thing where you can't hunt with them, period. And that's just life, and that's the way it goes, which, well, it kind of sucks to be in your shoes, but, you know, it's where you live, it's what you deal with, right? Anyway, that's what I got. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and sticking out with this one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below on this. Also, for provinces that I did not mention, if you are from the provinces not mentioned, please put it down in the comments below your information for your area to let everybody else know too, because I think it's pretty it'd be pretty good to know what all the other provinces have to say about this sort of thing. I tried looking up straight out regulations, like the same booklet I have for Ontario, and I did find, I think it was Alberta, and I couldn't even find anything in there. It's such a jumbled mess. It's like, well, if you want to know about this, oh, okay, cool, let's go there. Nothing. It's like, huh? And it's like, I just ran out of patience. I'm not going to weed through all that material, you know, so, you know, you'd know more specifics there for, you know, wherever. Anyway, that's it. That's all. And see you on the next one.